How did you find my house?" I swallowed the lump I had in my throat and looked up into his piercing green eyes. "Miss Blake, I have a proposal for you," he says, and I furrowed my eyebrows. This man literally had me thrown out of his company earlier today, and now he is in front of my house, telling me he has a proposal for me? "Please call me Kimberly or Kim. What do you mean by proposal?" "What sort of proposal do you have for me?" I asked him, and his eyes seemed to linger on my face. "You want me to tell your manager I forgave you, right?" He asks as though that fact had not been established. "Yes, not only tell him you forgive me, but you also come back to the coffee shop as a regular," I said. I knew I was pushing my luck, but what is life without risks? "Well, you have to do something for me in return," he tells me. My eyes widened, and my shoulders stiffened. What could I possibly do for him? My heart rate increased by 101%. "How can I be of help to you?" I asked quietly, fearing what would come out of his mouth. "I want you to be my fake girlfriend for a month," he told me casually, and my mouth literally fell open. "What? A fake girlfriend? What in the world is that? Why me of all people?" "Yes, I am currently jobless, but that doesn't mean I am open to all kinds of jobs. But then, I wonder what will it be like to date this dead gorgeous grumpy billionaire for a month, even if it will be a ruse," I thought to myself. The next day, I woke up and quickly got dressed as I had a very important task ahead of me, bringing Jace back to the coffee shop. I didn't care how stupid that sounded, but that was what I needed to get my job back. I set out to Jace's company and was amazed by how beautiful and well-structured it was. I don't think I have ever seen a place like that, or maybe it was just because I didn't go out as often as I should. I made my way to the entrance and spoke to the security men, who, by the way, didn't want me to go in. I pleaded and explained how urgent it was for me to see him. A blonde, beautiful lady came over and said, "Frank, what's going on here?" She asked the security man, whose name was Frank, and he opened his mouth to explain, but she didn't even give him a chance as she turned to look at me. "How can I help you?" She asked me so politely, and I immediately began to explain to her why I was there. She smiled and beckoned on me to follow her. "Mr. Norman isn't around, but if you don't mind, you can wait to see him," she told me, and I nodded. I didn't think it was going to be easy to actually see him, but look at that. I didn't know who exactly she was, but she was definitely a lifesaver and a soon-to-be job saver. I smiled internally and continued walking with her till we arrived at what seemed to be a waiting room. I gently took a seat and waited for what seemed like hours. I could see some of the employees in their offices while others were just arriving. I used to dream of working for a company like that, but maybe after college it would be possible to do so. I checked the time on my wrist and saw that about 2 hours had passed, yet he still isn't here. I can't lie. It was beginning to get tiring just sitting and expecting him to arrive. But he eventually came and said, "Sarah, I want those files immediately." I shivered at the sound of his voice. I could see all the workers focused. I could hear his footsteps coming in my direction, and my stomach started to flip incredibly. I could hear him yelling, and I knew he wasn't in a good mood. I chose the wrong day to come. I muttered to myself and sat there. He came into the room, heading towards his office. He glanced briefly at me, and he looked away. I let out my breath I didn't even realize I was holding. I had no idea why I was so scared of seeing him, maybe because I knew my job depended on his response. I waited for what seemed like forever before I was called into his office. I stepped in and noticed he was on a call. I wasn't aware when he ended his call, but heard him talk to me. "Why are you here? What guts do you have?" He yelled at me angrily. "If you could please..." I attempted to say, but his loud yelling shut me up. "Sarah! Sarah!" he called out, and the blonde lady came rushing into the office. "Get this lady out of here. I have absolutely no interest in this bullshit. If, peradventure, I ever see her near this place, then you will be sure to kiss your job goodbye," he tells the lady who stood there shaking. I stood up quietly, glanced back at the man who seemed to have no time to listen to what I was about to say, and nodded. "I'm sorry." I couldn't hold back my tears from washing down my face as I got out of his office. How am I going to cope without a job? I am in my finals. I can't afford to fail now, and I can't ask my parents for help. Getting a job seemed impossible at the moment. How am I going to get through? I sighed as I walked out of the company. Tears began to form in my eyes again, but I quickly wiped them off and got into my car. This time, tears came crashing down, and I couldn't stop it. I had absolutely no idea what I was going to do. How was I supposed to get a job? I sighed and wiped my tears, buckled my seatbelt properly, and drove to my place. I got to my apartment and dropped my bag on the couch. Walking over to my tiny kitchen, I put on the tap water and splashed water on my face. I walked back to the living room and picked out my phone, dialing my mom's number, and after about 2 rings, she picked it up. I could hear her breathing so fast. She was probably working. "Sweetie, how are you doing?" her soft voice asked, and I found myself trembling. Only she had the power to make me succumb without any effort. "I'm fine, Mom. How are you and Dad?" I speak quietly, trying to make my voice stable, and I hear her sigh over the phone. "Your dad is fine. I'm also fine, but we've missed you so much, sweetie." Her voice seemed more calm. "I miss you too, Mom. I should be back after my exams," I tell her. "That's perfect. How is Lisa too? It's been so long since I saw the both of you," she says, and tears pricked my eyes. "Every time we were on break from college, I spent it working here instead of going back home so I could at least send something back to my mom and dad. My dad was diagnosed with diabetes, and that reduced the workload on him, which was transferred to my mom. I stayed back during every holiday to earn money to help out the family, but now I have no job." "I'm sorry, Mom. I would come visit soon," I said. We ended up speaking for a long time. Talking to my mom really helped me, though I couldn't stop thinking about how I was going to cope. I woke up the next morning feeling shittier than ever. I knew my eyes were puffy, and I had eye bags under my eyes, and I looked terrible. But I couldn't care less. I wore a black dress, maybe to mourn my job. I tied my hair into a ponytail and put on brown slippers. Walking downstairs, I picked up my bag and walked out of the house. I got into my car and drove to college. I got to college a few minutes later and hopped out of the car. "Kim, what happened to you?" I heard Lisa screech as soon as she saw me, and I squinted my eyes. "Do I look that bad?" I smiled weakly at her as we walked into the school together. "I take it that the meeting with you and Jace Norman didn't go as expected, right?" she asked. I paused to look at her. "Correct," I muttered, and she sighed. "You know you shouldn't beat yourself so much about it. You would get a new job. Kim, if Jack doesn't want to rehire you, then he can go to hell." I smiled weakly at her. I shrugged it off as we walked into the class. I took a seat next to her. I tried paying attention to the lecture going on, but it seemed impossible. After I was done with class, I glanced over to see Lisa talking to some girls. Not wanting to disturb them, I walked directly to my car, as I didn't have the strength for anything else. Kim? I turned to see Lisa calling me. "I'm sorry, Lisa, I've got a lot on my mind," I said, while trying to fake a smile. "It's fine, I know, which is why I'm coming over to your place today." She tells me and pulls me into a tight hug, in which I hugged her back tightly. Well, she's the only friend I've got. We got into the car and drove to my place. We walked down to Kate's place on our way home and made our orders. "How about you go see Jace again? Try to make him reason with you." She said it out of the blue, and my eyes widened. After what happened today, I'm so sure he doesn't want to see me. Lisa, that is going to be so difficult, I replied. Kimberly, I just got a text from Mason. I'll have to go over to his place, but I'll meet you at home. I smiled and nodded. Extend my greetings to him and tell him thank you, I said, and watched as she rushed out of the diner. After I was done with my food, I started to walk towards my apartment and tried to open the door. Miss Blake! I heard a deep voice call out to me, and I immediately turned back to see who it was. And there he was. How the hell did he get to know where I live? I walked towards him slowly, my eyes not leaving his. The man is a work of art, sculptured to perfection. With him staring at me like that, I felt my knees go weak and my heart beat faster. What is wrong with me? I couldn't think straight with this man staring at me like that. Miss Blake? I heard again, but this time his voice was calm and warm. I liked the way he called my name. Oh, what am I thinking? Yes, Mr. Know-Our Man. I stuttered. What are you doing here? I stuttered. How did you find my house? I swallowed the lump I had in my throat and looked up into his piercing green eyes. Miss Blake, I have a proposal for you, he says, and I furrowed my eyebrows. This man literally had me thrown out of his company earlier today, and now he is in front of my house, telling me he has a proposal for me? Please call me Kimberly or Kim. What do you mean by proposal? What sort of proposal do you have for me? I asked him, and his eyes seemed to linger on my face. You want me to tell your manager I forgave you, right? He asks as though that fact had not been established. Yes, not only tell him you forgive me, but you also come back to the coffee shop as a regular, I said. I knew I was pushing my luck, but what is life without risks? Well, you have to do something for me in return, he tells me. My eyes widened, and my shoulders stiffened. What could I possibly do for him? My heart rate increased by 101%. How can I be of help to you? I asked quietly, fearing what would come out of his mouth. I want you to be my fake girlfriend for a month, he told me casually, and my mouth literally fell open. What? A fake girlfriend? What in the world is that? Why me of all people? Yes, I am currently jobless, but that doesn't mean I am open to all kinds of jobs. But then, I wonder what will it be like to date this dead gorgeous grumpy billionaire for a month, even if it will be a ruse. I thought to myself, what does it entail? I asked subconsciously and saw something flash quickly in his eyes, but it was too quick to decipher. All you need to know is that we will be going out a lot. You will be required to do what a normal girlfriend does, like moving in with me. He mentioned all that, but my ears only caught the last line. What was he insinuating? I have to do all that a real girlfriend does? His eyes widened slightly as he seemed to catch on to what he said too. No, I don't mean whatever you have in mind. When we go out for our outings, we are required to kiss and hold hands and all that crap, but that's where it ends, he said, and I sighed. Well, Kimberly, are you in or out? He asked in a stern and sharp voice, and I snapped my head towards him. Me being a fake girlfriend? We don't have to kiss, and do the other things. I say carefully, and he sighs. I literally just explained this. Didn't you catch on to anything I said? He asks and waves it off again. We don't have to do anything, but Kimberly, I can promise you that I have absolutely no interest in kissing you, but we do have to kiss. How are people supposed to believe that we are actually dating? I take in a deep breath. You promise you're going to go back to my coffee shop? I asked. He rolled his eyes and looked at me. There is no need for promises, as we would have a contract to abide by, and no one must know we are fake dating. I expect you to move into my apartment by tomorrow evening. I will have Evans, my driver, pick you up and get you settled in. I'll see you tomorrow, Kimberly, he said. I opened my mouth to talk, but he got into his car and drove off. Tomorrow is far too fast. It's all going. So fast. How could I leave here tomorrow? What was I even doing? I didn't know what to do. My feet seemed like they were rooted deep into the ground, and I couldn't move them. I just agreed to a fake date with Jace Norman. I walked into my apartment and stripped off my clothes. After I was done, I picked up my phone and called Lisa. I told her everything that just happened, even about the fake dating. She is my best friend, and right now I needed someone to tell me what I was planning on doing, which was stupid and wrong, but no. Instead, Lisa was squealing so loudly that I had to put the phone away from me. "Lisa, what do you think? Should I go ahead?" I asked her. "Duh. You get to date Jace Norman, the one and only Jace Norman, for a whole month, and you decide not to go for it?" She says it as though I was stupid for even considering not fake dating Jace Norman. I rolled my eyes and cut the call. Would agreeing to this really be the solution? I had no idea what a celebrity's life entails. I had no idea how to behave around them or what I am supposed to do. Could I really go through with this? Or should I just bail out? But I needed my job back. I needed to support myself and my parents. I sighed and laid on my bed. I will worry about this tomorrow.